if Tsai's victory is a repudiation of her predecessor Ma Ying-jeou's 2 terms in which he really focused on fortifying ties between China and Taiwan, what exactly is her mandate now?
Well, I think Tsai Ing-wen's mandate is all about domestic economic reform. I mean, Taiwan has, had significant success in broadening its ties economically and politically with mainland China over the previous 8 years. But when you look at the domestic economy, now they're overly exposed to China. Trade is not very diversified, and I think Tsai intends to come into office and, try to diversify those trade flows and deregulate some key sectors in the economy.
And one thing about what Tsai Ing-wen did is that Ma Ying-jeou, her predecessor, promised that Taiwan would get 6% GDP, 3% unemployment, and $30,000 per capita income. Tsai's party has said what Taiwan got instead was 143, far from that.
True. And so what winds up happening to China now? Will they retaliate in any kind of way against Taiwan, and what kind of pressure does that put on Taiwan?
Well, I think the immediate risk is rather limited. It's actually a good sign. I mean, Tsai Ing-wen and her team and Beijing and the team around Xi Jinping, I think, have been in some dialogue and negotiation over the past few months to try to find a new framework for relations. I mean, that's the key issue, is that Tsai Ing-wen fundamentally rejects the so-called 1992 consensus, which has been the guiding framework for relations up to this point. So I think they're working for a deal. And if that doesn't happen, then we need to really pay attention to this story. I think then the Taiwan-China risk would go up in a big way, but they have some time.
How does Taiwan fit into China's transition to a services-driven economy from one that's an industrial economy? Because Taiwan companies had long ago moved their heavy manufacturing to the mainland.
Yeah, I actually think this is more a worrying story for Taiwan than it is about an opportunity for mainland China. I mean, the big story here is that this era of complementarity between China's economy and Taiwan's economy is now coming to an end. I mean, Chinese firms more and more are competing head-on with the high-tech, innovative Taiwanese firms that many have invested into the mainland. So this is one of the big challenges for Tsai, and it's reflective of where Beijing is trying to head with their own economy.
Right, a paradigm shift, to be sure. Nick, Tsai Ing-wen is a technocrat. She's described as someone for whom politics doesn't come very naturally, but policy competence and a global perspective. She went to Cornell, got a master's there. She got a PhD in law from LSE. Those are her strengths. How does she bring those strengths to bear in her relationship with China?
Well, it's going to be quite interesting to see. I mean, Tsai Ing-wen, has a long experience in negotiating trade and economic relations with the mainland. And she's called herself the Merkel of Taiwan. She wants to have this kind of pragmatic economic leadership. And I think she'll put technocrats and even some officials from the outgoing party, the KMT, in senior spots in government. And I think she's going to try to have a stable relationship with the mainland. I mean, the fundamental story here, there's no way Tsai Ing-wen can pursue significant domestic reform if the relationship with the mainland is very negative. And I think she understands that.
All right, pragmatist first, really.
Yeah, is there any kind of credibility issue here for China, that they need to sort of do something specific to keep face?
Well, remember that President Xi actually met with the outgoing President Ma Ying-jeou in November, which was the first time that the leaders of the two sides had met since 1949.
Right.
So I think they've already had a strong signal here that they're willing to try to find a way to move forward. It's just going to be about those negotiations.